Question 1. When evaluating an application for a Category H handgun firearms license in New South Wales, an applicant has provided a detailed explanation of their genuine reason for seeking the license, citing participation in a specific accredited shooting club and their intention to compete in sanctioned events. The applicant has also submitted references from their employer and a long-term acquaintance. What is the most appropriate course of action for the licensing authority to ensure compliance with the Firearms Act 1996 NSW and the Firearms Regulation 2017 NSW? Option A. Conduct a thorough review of the applicant's stated genuine reason, verify their membership and participation in the accredited shooting club, assess the provided references for character insights, and confirm the applicant meets all other statutory eligibility criteria, including mental and physical fitness, before making a decision. Option B. Grant the license immediately upon receipt of the application and supporting documents, assuming the applicant is of good character and has a valid reason, as the burden of proof lies with the authority to demonstrate unsuitability. Option C. Focus solely on the administrative completeness of the application form, approving it if all fields are filled, regardless of the substance of the genuine reason or the applicant's background. Option D. Deny the license based on a general concern about the proliferation of handguns in the community, without specific evidence of the applicant's unsuitability or a failure to meet statutory requirements. The correct answer is A. Conduct a thorough review of the applicant's stated genuine reason, verify their membership and participation in the accredited shooting club, assess the provided references for character insights, and confirm the applicant meets all other statutory eligibility criteria, including mental and physical fitness, before making a decision. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires an applicant to demonstrate not only a genuine reason for possessing a handgun, but also to navigate the complex and often subjective assessment of their suitability by the NSW police force. The challenge lies in balancing the applicant's stated need against public safety considerations and the stringent requirements of the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, and its associated regulations. The decision-maker must exercise careful judgment to avoid both compromising public safety and unfairly denying a license to a suitable individual. Correct approach analysis. The best professional practice involves a thorough and objective assessment of all provided documentation and information, cross-referencing it against the specific criteria outlined in the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, and the Firearms Regulation 2017, NSW. This includes verifying the applicant's stated genuine reason, assessing their character, and ensuring they meet all eligibility requirements, such as age, mental and physical fitness, and absence of disqualifying factors. The decision-maker must then apply the law impartially, considering any relevant policy guidelines issued by the NSW police force. This approach is correct because it adheres strictly to the legislative framework, prioritizes public safety, and ensures a fair and consistent application of the law. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach would be to grant the license based solely on the applicant's assertion of a genuine reason, without independent verification or a comprehensive assessment of their suitability. This fails to meet the statutory obligation to ensure the applicant is a fit and proper person, and that granting the license would not be contrary to the public interest, as required by the Firearms Act 1996, NSW. Another incorrect approach would be to deny the license based on a personal bias or unsubstantiated concerns about the applicant's character, without concrete evidence or a clear breach of the legislative requirements. This would be an arbitrary decision, failing to uphold the principles of procedural fairness and potentially leading to a reviewable decision that could be overturned. A further incorrect approach would be to focus excessively on minor administrative oversights in the application, such as a slightly incomplete form, while overlooking significant positive indicators of the applicant's suitability or a compelling genuine reason. While administrative accuracy is important, the primary focus must remain on the applicant's eligibility and the public safety implications, as mandated by the Firearms Act 1996, NSW. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a systematic decision-making process that begins with a clear understanding of the relevant legislation and policy. This involves meticulously reviewing all submitted evidence, conducting necessary background checks, and assessing the applicant's stated genuine reason against established criteria. Any doubts or concerns should be investigated thoroughly and objectively. The decision must be based on the facts presented and the legal requirements, ensuring that public safety is paramount while upholding fairness and due process for the applicant. Question 2. The analysis reveals that an applicant for a Category H handgun firearm license in New South Wales has disclosed a history of several domestic disputes with a former partner over the past 5 years. The applicant states these disputes were minor disagreements that never resulted in formal charges or police intervention. However, the applicant expresses concern that this information might negatively impact their application. What is the most appropriate course of action for the licensing authority to take in assessing this applicant's suitability? Option A. Immediately approve the firearm license, as the applicant has stated the disputes were minor and no charges were laid, indicating no legal impediment. Option B. Disregard the disclosed domestic disputes as irrelevant to the firearm license application, given that no formal charges were ever laid. Option C. Conduct a thorough investigation into the nature and context of the disclosed domestic disputes, seeking corroborating information where possible, to determine if the applicant poses an unacceptable risk to public safety. Option D. Automatically refuse the firearm license due to the applicant's disclosure of domestic disputes, as this indicates a potential for instability. The correct answer is C. Conduct a thorough investigation into the nature and context of the disclosed domestic disputes, seeking corroborating information where possible, to determine if the applicant poses an unacceptable risk to public safety. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the applicant's stated intention with the objective assessment of their suitability for a Category H handgun firearm license in New South Wales. The applicant's history of domestic disputes, even if not resulting in formal charges, raises significant concerns regarding their temperament and capacity for responsible firearm ownership, particularly for a handgun which is often associated with higher risks. The licensing authority must exercise due diligence to ensure public safety without unfairly penalizing an individual based on unsubstantiated allegations. Correct approach analysis. The best professional practice involves a thorough investigation into the nature and severity of the domestic disputes, seeking corroborating evidence beyond the applicant's statement. This includes obtaining statements from parties involved, where appropriate and legally permissible, reviewing any police attendance records or intervention orders, and assessing the applicant's current relationship status and stability. This approach aligns with the requirements of the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, and the associated regulations, which mandate that the Commissioner of Police must be satisfied that an applicant is a fit and proper person to hold a license, considering factors that may indicate a risk to public safety. The focus is on gathering objective information to make an informed decision, rather than relying solely on the applicant's self-assessment or dismissing the concerns outright. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach is to immediately approve the license based solely on the applicant's assertion that the disputes were minor and did not lead to charges. This fails to acknowledge the potential for underlying issues of violence or aggression that may not have resulted in formal legal action, but could still render the applicant unsuitable for handgun ownership. It neglects the duty of care owed to the public and the spirit of the licensing legislation. Another incorrect approach is to automatically refuse the license based on the mere mention of domestic disputes, regardless of their nature or outcome. This can be seen as discriminatory and punitive, failing to afford the applicant due process. The legislation requires an assessment of suitability, not an automatic disqualification based on past, unsubstantiated incidents. A nuanced investigation is required. A further incorrect approach is to dismiss the domestic disputes as irrelevant because no charges were laid. While the absence of charges is a factor, it does not negate the potential for concerning behavior. The licensing authority has a responsibility to investigate any information that may indicate a risk, and domestic disputes, even without charges, can be indicative of such risks. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this field must adopt a risk-based assessment framework. This involves identifying potential risks to public safety, gathering relevant information to assess the likelihood and severity of those risks, and making a decision that prioritizes public safety while adhering to legal and ethical obligations. A key element is the principle of fit and proper person, which requires a holistic evaluation of an applicant's character, history, and circumstances, rather than a superficial review. When dealing with sensitive information like domestic disputes, professionals must also be mindful of privacy considerations and legal limitations on information gathering. Question 3. Comparative studies suggest that the process for obtaining a Category H handgun firearms license in New South Wales is highly regulated. An individual, Mr. Smith, wishes to obtain a handgun license. He states he is interested in the sport of shooting and believes a handgun would be a suitable firearm for his personal protection. He has never been a member of a pistol club and has no prior experience with competitive shooting. He has also not completed any firearm safety courses. Which of the following approaches would best align with the requirements for a Category H license in New South Wales? Option A. Mr. Smith should first join an approved pistol club, actively participate in its organized shooting activities, complete a recognized firearm safety course, and then submit an application detailing his genuine reason for possessing a handgun, supported by evidence of his club membership and participation. Option B. Mr. Smith should apply for the license stating his interest in personal protection, as this is a valid reason for handgun ownership in New South Wales, and then seek to join a pistol club after obtaining the license. Option C. Mr. Smith should submit an application based solely on his general interest in shooting sports, without providing specific evidence of club membership or participation, as the Firearms Registry will understand his intentions. Option D. Mr. Smith should focus on obtaining a license for a different category of firearm that is more commonly used for personal protection, as handguns are primarily for sport and not suitable for his stated needs. The correct answer is A. Mr. Smith should first join an approved pistol club, actively participate in its organized shooting activities, complete a recognized firearms safety course, and then submit an application detailing his genuine reason for possessing a handgun, supported by evidence of his club membership and participation. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires an applicant to navigate the complex and stringent requirements for obtaining a Category H handgun firearms license in New South Wales. The core challenge lies in demonstrating a genuine reason for possessing a handgun, which is a high-risk category, and ensuring all documentation and personal circumstances meet the strict criteria set by the Firearms Registry, NSW. Failure to do so can result in license refusal, impacting the applicant's ability to participate in licensed activities and potentially raising concerns about public safety. Careful judgment is required to interpret the legislation and policy accurately, and to present a compelling case that satisfies all legal obligations. Correct approach analysis. The best professional approach involves meticulously gathering and presenting all required documentation that unequivocally supports a genuine reason for possessing a handgun, as defined by the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, and associated regulations. This includes providing evidence of membership in an approved pistol club, proof of participation in shooting competitions or organized target practice, and a clear explanation of how the handgun will be used for these legitimate purposes. Furthermore, the applicant must demonstrate they have completed the required safety training and passed all background checks. This approach is correct because it directly addresses the statutory requirements for a genuine reason and demonstrates the applicant's commitment to safe and lawful firearm ownership, aligning with the public interest objectives of the Firearms Act 1996, NSW. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to submit an application with vague or unsubstantiated claims about wanting a handgun for personal protection, without providing evidence of membership in an approved pistol club or participation in organized shooting activities. This fails to meet the definition of a genuine reason under the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, which specifically excludes self-defense as a primary reason for possessing a handgun. Another incorrect approach is to provide incomplete documentation, such as failing to include proof of membership in an approved pistol club or evidence of participation in shooting events. This demonstrates a lack of diligence and an inability to satisfy the fundamental requirements for a Category H license, leading to a high probability of refusal. A further incorrect approach is to omit relevant personal history information that might be pertinent to the assessment of the applicant's suitability, such as past convictions or mental health concerns, even if they believe it is not directly related to firearms. The Firearms Registry (NSW) has a duty to assess the overall suitability of an applicant, and withholding information can be seen as a deliberate attempt to mislead, which is a serious regulatory failure. Professional reasoning. Professionals assisting applicants for firearms licenses in New South Wales must adopt a systematic and thorough approach. This involves a deep understanding of the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, and the Firearms Regulation 2019, NSW, particularly concerning the definition of genuine reason for Category H licenses. The process should begin with a comprehensive consultation to understand the applicant's intended use of the firearm and to identify the most appropriate genuine reason. Subsequently, a detailed checklist of required documentation should be provided, with clear explanations of what constitutes acceptable evidence. Professionals must guide applicants in gathering this evidence, ensuring its accuracy and completeness, and advise on the importance of full disclosure regarding personal history. The ultimate goal is to present a robust and compliant application that demonstrates the applicant's suitability and adherence to all legal requirements, thereby promoting public safety and upholding the integrity of the firearms licensing system in New South Wales. Question 4. The investigation demonstrates that a New South Wales resident applying for Category H, Handgun, firearms license has disclosed a history of domestic disputes with a former partner, although no formal charges were ever laid. The applicant has provided character references who attest to their good character and responsible nature. What is the most appropriate course of action for the NSW Firearms Registry? Option A. Grant the Category H firearms license immediately, as the absence of criminal convictions means the applicant meets the basic eligibility requirements. Option B. Automatically refuse the Category H firearms license application due to the mention of domestic disputes, as this indicates a potential risk to public safety. Option C. Conduct a thorough investigation into the nature and context of the disclosed domestic disputes, including seeking further information from relevant parties where possible, and assess the applicant's overall suitability against the fit and proper person criteria under the Firearms Act 1996, NSW. Option D. Issue the Category H firearms license based solely on the positive character references provided by the applicant, assuming they outweigh the disclosed history. The correct answer is C. Conduct a thorough investigation into the nature and context of the disclosed domestic disputes, including seeking further information from relevant parties where possible, and assess the applicant's overall suitability against the fit and proper person criteria under the Firearms Act 1996, NSW. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the applicant's stated intention with the objective assessment of their suitability for a Category H, handgun, license in New South Wales. The applicant's history of domestic disputes, even if not resulting in formal charges, raises significant concerns regarding their temperament and capacity to handle a firearm responsibly, particularly a handgun, which is often associated with higher risk. The onus is on the Firearms Registry to conduct a thorough and objective assessment, adhering strictly to the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, and its associated regulations. Correct approach analysis. The best professional practice involves a comprehensive review of all provided documentation, including references and any available police records or reports related to the domestic disputes. This approach prioritizes a holistic assessment of the applicant's character and suitability, directly addressing the concerns raised by the domestic dispute history. Firearms Act 1996, NSW, mandates that the commissioner must be satisfied that an applicant is a fit and proper person to hold a license. This includes considering any history that might indicate a propensity for violence or an inability to exercise control. A thorough investigation into the nature and frequency of the disputes and the applicant's behavior during these incidents is crucial for making this determination. The absence of formal charges does not automatically equate to suitability. The registry must still assess the underlying risk. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach would be to grant the license solely based on the absence of criminal convictions. This fails to meet the fit and proper person test under the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, which requires a broader assessment of character and potential risk. Another incorrect approach would be to automatically refuse the license based on the mention of domestic disputes without further investigation. This could be seen as prejudging the applicant and failing to conduct a fair and thorough assessment as required by the Act. Finally, relying solely on the applicant's self-reported account of the disputes without seeking corroborating information or context would also be an inadequate approach, as it does not provide an objective basis for assessing suitability. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this role must adopt a risk-based, evidence-driven decision-making process. This involves 1. Identifying potential risks based on the application and any supporting information. 2. Conducting thorough investigations to gather all relevant facts, including police checks and reference checks, and exploring the context of any concerning history. 3. Objectively assessing the gathered evidence against the legal requirements for license eligibility, specifically the fit and proper person criteria. 4. Documenting the entire decision-making process, including the rationale for granting or refusing the license, to ensure transparency and accountability. Question 5. Analysis of a situation in New South Wales where a prospective buyer presents a firearms license for a handgun and states their genuine reason for acquisition is personal protection. What is the most appropriate course of action for the licensed firearms dealer? Option A. Proceed with the sale immediately as the buyer has presented a firearms license for a handgun. Option B. Accept the buyer's stated genuine reason of personal protection without further inquiry, assuming it is valid. Option C. Inform the buyer that personal protection is not a valid genuine reason and refuse the sale without verifying the license itself. Option D. Verify the validity and category of the buyer's Category H firearms license and confirm that personal protection is a recognized and legitimate genuine reason for handgun acquisition under the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, and its associated regulations. The correct answer is D. Verify the validity and category of the buyer's Category H firearms license and confirm that personal protection is a recognized and legitimate genuine reason for handgun acquisition under the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, and its associated regulations. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge for a firearms dealer in New South Wales due to the strict regulatory environment surrounding the licensing and sale of handguns. The dealer must navigate the legal requirements for verifying a buyer's eligibility, while also maintaining ethical business practices and preventing the diversion of firearms to unauthorized individuals. The core challenge lies in balancing the need to conduct business with the paramount responsibility of public safety and adherence to the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, and its associated regulations. Correct approach analysis. The best professional approach involves meticulously verifying the buyer's genuine reason for possessing a handgun and confirming the validity and currency of their Category H firearms license issued by NSW Police. This includes checking the license details against official records if possible, and ensuring the stated genuine reason aligns with the types of handguns permitted under the license category. This approach is correct because it directly addresses the core requirements of the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, and the Firearms Regulation 2017, NSW, which mandate that a dealer must not sell a handgun unless the buyer produces a valid firearms license authorizing the acquisition of that specific type of firearm and demonstrates a genuine reason for its possession. This ensures compliance and promotes responsible firearm ownership. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach is to accept the buyer's word regarding their license status and genuine reason without independent verification. This is professionally unacceptable as it bypasses the statutory obligations to confirm license validity and genuine reason, potentially leading to the sale of a firearm to an unlicensed or ineligible individual, thereby breaching the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, and compromising public safety. Another incorrect approach is to proceed with the sale based solely on the buyer presenting a license that appears to be for a handgun, without confirming the specific category or expiry date. This is flawed because a license may be expired, suspended, or may not cover the specific type of handgun being purchased, all of which would constitute a breach of the regulatory framework. A further incorrect approach is to assume that because the buyer has a license, any genuine reason they state is acceptable. The genuine reason must be one recognized by the NSW police and the legislation, such as competitive shooting or collecting. Failing to assess the legitimacy of the stated genuine reason, beyond simply accepting it, risks facilitating firearm acquisition for purposes not sanctioned by law, which is a serious regulatory failure. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this field must adopt a proactive and diligent approach to compliance. This involves understanding the specific requirements of the Firearms Act 1996 NSW and the Firearms Regulation 2017 NSW for each license category. When presented with a potential sale, a structured decision-making process should be followed. 1. Identify the firearm type and its corresponding license category. 2. Request to see the buyer's current and valid firearms license. 3. Verify the license details, including expiry date and authorized firearm categories. 4. Discuss and assess the buyer's stated genuine reason for acquisition, ensuring it is a recognized and legitimate purpose under NSW law. 5. If any doubt or discrepancy arises, seek clarification from the issuing authority, NSW Police, before proceeding. This systematic process ensures all legal and ethical obligations are met, prioritizing safety and compliance. Question 6. Consider a scenario where an individual in New South Wales is applying for Category H handgun firearm license and has stated their genuine reason as wanting to participate in organized shooting activities. What is the most effective and compliant method for this applicant to support their application? Option A. Present a general statement about the importance of firearm safety and responsible ownership, without specific evidence of a genuine reason or club affiliation. Option B. Include a detailed description of the specific handgun models they are interested in purchasing and their technical specifications, assuming this demonstrates a serious interest in the sport. Option C. Provide evidence of current membership in an approved pistol club, including proof of participation in club events or training sessions, along with a detailed explanation of how their intended shooting activities align with the club's sanctioned disciplines. Option D. Submit a letter stating their intention to join an approved pistol club within the next 6 months and express their enthusiasm for handgun sports. Correct answer is C. Provide evidence of current membership in an approved pistol club, including proof of participation in club events or training sessions, along with a detailed explanation of how their intended shooting activities align with the club's sanctioned disciplines. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to navigate the strict requirements for obtaining a Category H handgun firearm license in New South Wales, specifically concerning the genuine reason for possession and the applicant's suitability. The onus is on the applicant to demonstrate they meet these criteria, and the licensing authority must rigorously assess their application to ensure public safety and compliance with the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, and its associated regulations. The challenge lies in interpreting and applying the broad concept of genuine reason to a specific personal circumstance, and ensuring all supporting documentation is accurate and complete. Correct approach analysis. The best approach involves the applicant meticulously gathering and presenting all required documentation that directly supports their stated genuine reason for possessing a handgun. This includes evidence of membership in an approved pistol club, participation records, and a clear explanation of how their intended use aligns with the defined genuine reasons under the Act, such as competitive shooting or organized sport. This approach is correct because it directly addresses the core requirements of the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, and the Firearms Regulation 2017, NSW, for a Category H license. Section 12 of the Act and relevant clauses in the regulation outline the necessity of demonstrating a genuine reason and meeting suitability criteria. By providing comprehensive and verifiable evidence, the applicant proactively satisfies the licensing authority's need for assurance regarding their lawful and responsible intent. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to submit an application with only a vague statement of intent to join a pistol club in the future, without any concrete evidence of current membership or participation. This fails to meet the requirement of demonstrating a genuine reason at the time of application, as the Act typically requires proof of active involvement or a confirmed pathway to such involvement. The licensing authority cannot grant a license based on speculative future actions. Another incorrect approach is to provide documentation that is incomplete or contains inaccuracies regarding the applicant's personal history, such as failing to disclose relevant past incidents or providing misleading information about their residential address. This constitutes a failure to be truthful and transparent, which is a fundamental ethical and regulatory requirement. The licensing authority has a duty to assess the applicant's suitability, and any attempt to conceal or misrepresent information directly undermines this assessment and can lead to immediate refusal or revocation of a license. A further incorrect approach is to focus solely on the technical aspects of handgun ownership, such as the type of firearm desired, without adequately addressing the genuine reason for possession. While technical specifications are relevant to the license category, they do not substitute for the primary requirement of establishing a lawful and recognized purpose for owning the firearm. The legislation prioritizes the why before the what. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this field must adopt a systematic and evidence-based approach. This involves thoroughly understanding the specific legislative requirements of the jurisdiction, in this case, NSW, meticulously gathering all supporting documentation, and ensuring absolute transparency and accuracy in all representations made to the licensing authority. When faced with ambiguity, seeking clarification from the relevant authority or consulting legal advice specific to NSW firearms law is prudent. The overarching principle is to demonstrate a clear, lawful, and verifiable genuine reason for possessing a handgun, coupled with an unimpeachable record of suitability. Question 7. During the evaluation of a Category H, handgun, firearms license application in New South Wales, an applicant states their genuine reason for needing a handgun is for participation in competitive shooting events. What is the most appropriate course of action for the licensing authority to ensure compliance with the Firearms Act 1996, NSW? Option A. Request detailed documentation from the applicant proving active membership in an approved pistol club and evidence of participation in sanctioned shooting competitions, alongside a comprehensive assessment of their firearm safety training and storage plans. Option B. Advise the applicant that personal protection is a valid, genuine reason for a handgun license in New South Wales and proceed with the application based on this understanding. Option C. Accept the applicant's statement of intent to participate in competitive shooting as sufficient grounds for a handgun license, provided they express a commitment to safe firearm handling. Option D. Grant the license based on the applicant's enthusiasm for shooting sports, assuming that their interest will naturally lead to responsible ownership and adherence to club rules. The correct answer is A. Request detailed documentation from the applicant proving active membership in an approved pistol club and evidence of participation in sanctioned shooting competitions, alongside a comprehensive assessment of their firearm safety training and storage plans. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires the applicant to demonstrate not only a genuine need for a handgun license, but also the capacity to safely and responsibly possess such a firearm, while navigating the specific legislative requirements of New South Wales. The core of the challenge lies in balancing the applicant's stated purpose with the stringent public safety obligations mandated by the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, and its associated regulations. A thorough and objective assessment is paramount to prevent potential misuse and ensure community safety. The best approach involves meticulously verifying the applicant's stated genuine reason for requiring a handgun license, as defined by the Firearms Act 1996, NSW. This includes requiring documentary evidence that substantiates the declared purpose, such as membership in an approved pistol club, proof of participation in shooting competitions, or evidence of employment requiring firearm use, if applicable and permitted for handguns. Furthermore, it necessitates a comprehensive assessment of the applicant's suitability, including background checks, reference checks, and an evaluation of their understanding of safe firearm handling and storage requirements, as stipulated by the Act and relevant regulations. This thoroughness ensures compliance with the legislative intent to permit firearm ownership only for legitimate and safe purposes. An approach that relies solely on the applicant's verbal assurance without seeking corroborating evidence is professionally unacceptable. This fails to meet the evidential burden required by the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, and exposes the licensing authority to risk. Similarly, accepting a vague or unsubstantiated reason, such as personal protection, without further specific justification that aligns with the Act's provisions for handgun licensing, is a regulatory failure. The Act outlines specific genuine reasons, and personal protection is generally not a standalone reason for a handgun license in New South Wales. Furthermore, overlooking or inadequately assessing the applicant's training and storage plans would contravene the safety provisions of the Act, which mandate responsible firearm ownership. Professionals should employ a structured decision-making process that prioritizes legislative compliance and public safety. This involves 1. Clearly identifying the applicant's stated genuine reason and cross-referencing it with the permissible reasons under the Firearms Act 1996 NSW. 2. Demanding specific, verifiable documentation to support the stated reason. 3. Conducting a thorough risk assessment, including background and character checks. 4. Evaluating the applicant's knowledge and commitment to safe handling, storage, and use. And 5. Documenting all assessments and decisions meticulously, ensuring transparency and accountability. Question 8. Research into the requirements for Category H, handgun, firearm license in New South Wales has revealed that an applicant, Mr. David Chen, has stated his genuine reason for wanting a handgun is for personal protection and to engage in recreational shooting at a local club. Mr. Chen has provided a letter from a shooting club confirming his membership and a general statement about his interest in firearms. He has not provided any specific details about his planned shooting activities or any evidence of prior participation in handgun competitions. Considering the regulatory framework in New South Wales, which of the following approaches best represents the necessary steps for Mr. Chen to successfully obtain his license? Option A. Mr. Chen should submit a detailed plan for how he intends to use the handgun for self-defense in his home and community, as this is a common and accepted reason for handgun ownership. Option B. Mr. Chen should simply state that he is a member of a shooting club and that he intends to shoot there, as the club membership itself is sufficient proof of a genuine reason. Option C. Mr. Chen should focus on elaborating his concerns about personal safety and provide a statutory declaration detailing his perceived threats, as this is the primary reason for his application. Option D. Mr. Chen should provide detailed documentation of his membership and active participation in a recognized shooting club, including evidence of his involvement in handgun shooting disciplines, and clearly articulate how the handgun will be used for approved sporting or target shooting purposes, while also ensuring full disclosure of his personal history to demonstrate suitability. The correct answer is D. Mr. Chen should provide detailed documentation of his membership and active participation in a recognized shooting club, including evidence of his involvement in handgun shooting disciplines, and clearly articulate how the handgun will be used for approved sporting or target shooting purposes, while also ensuring full disclosure of his personal history to demonstrate suitability. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because it requires the applicant to navigate the strict requirements for obtaining a Category H handgun firearm license in New South Wales, specifically concerning the genuine reason for possession and the applicant's suitability. The onus is on the applicant to demonstrate a legitimate and ongoing need for a handgun, which goes beyond mere personal interest or a vague desire for self-defense. The licensing authority must carefully assess the applicant's history and stated purpose to ensure compliance with the Firearms Act 1996 NSW and its associated regulations. The correct approach involves a thorough and documented demonstration of a genuine reason for possessing a handgun, supported by verifiable evidence. This includes providing official documentation from a recognized shooting club confirming membership and participation, along with a clear explanation of how the handgun will be used for that specific, approved purpose, e.g., competitive target shooting. This aligns with Section 13 of the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, which mandates that an applicant must establish a genuine reason for possessing a firearm, and that this reason must be ongoing. The applicant must also satisfy the Commissioner of Police of their suitability, which includes demonstrating they are not a danger to themselves or others. An incorrect approach would be to rely solely on a general statement of interest in firearms, or a perceived need for personal protection without substantiation. This fails to meet the genuine reason requirement as defined by the Act, which specifies approved reasons such as sport or target shooting, or being a collector. Personal protection is generally not considered a genuine reason for a handgun license in New South Wales unless specific, exceptional circumstances are met and rigorously proven, which is rare. Another incorrect approach is to omit crucial supporting documentation, such as club membership or participation records, as this leaves the application unsubstantiated and unable to meet the evidentiary burden. Finally, failing to disclose relevant personal history, even if seemingly minor, could be seen as a lack of honesty and transparency, which is critical for demonstrating suitability to the Commissioner of Police. Professionals should approach such applications by meticulously reviewing the applicant's stated genuine reason against the list of approved reasons in the Firearms Act 1996. NSW. They must then guide the applicant on the specific documentary evidence required to substantiate their claim. Transparency and completeness in the application process are paramount, ensuring all relevant information, including any history that might impact suitability, is disclosed. Question 9. Governance review demonstrates that a licensed firearms dealer in New South Wales, operating under the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, is considering the sale of a Category H handgun. The prospective buyer presents a valid Category H handgun license and states their genuine reason for purchase is to join a shooting club and participate in competitive target shooting. What is the most appropriate course of action for the dealer to ensure full compliance with New South Wales firearms regulations? Option A. Contact the shooting club directly to confirm the applicant's membership and their intention to purchase a handgun, without independently verifying the license with the NSW Police Force Firearms Registry. Option B. Record the applicant's stated genuine reason on the sales record and process the sale, as the license itself indicates the buyer is permitted to own a handgun. Option C. Accept the presented Category H handgun license as sufficient proof of eligibility and proceed with the sale, assuming the applicant's stated reason is valid as it is a common reason for handgun ownership. Option D. Verify the validity and currency of the license with the NSW Police Force Firearms Registry and confirm that the applicant's stated genuine reason for possessing a handgun aligns with the specific categories permitted for Category H firearms under the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, including confirming the applicant's membership and the club's approval for handgun acquisition. The correct answer is D. Verify the validity and currency of the license with the NSW Police Force Firearms Registry and confirm that the applicant's stated genuine reason for possessing a handgun aligns with the specific categories permitted for Category H firearms under the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, including confirming the applicant's membership and the club's approval for handgun acquisition. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge for a firearms dealer in New South Wales due to the strict regulatory environment surrounding the licensing and sale of Category H firearms. The challenge lies in balancing commercial interests with the paramount responsibility to ensure compliance with the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, and its associated regulation, particularly concerning the verification of a genuine reason for possessing a handgun and the validity of a license. Failure to adhere to these requirements can lead to severe penalties, including license suspension or cancellation, and criminal charges. Careful judgment is required to navigate the nuances of license verification and the definition of a genuine reason. Correct approach analysis. The best professional practice involves a proactive and thorough verification process that goes beyond simply accepting a presented license. This approach requires the dealer to actively confirm the validity and currency of the license with the relevant New South Wales Police Force authority, and to critically assess whether the stated genuine reason for possessing a handgun, as declared by the applicant and supported by documentation, aligns with the categories permitted under the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, for Category H firearms. This includes understanding that reasons such as self-defense are generally not considered genuine reasons for handgun ownership in NSW. This rigorous approach ensures compliance with Section 32 of the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, which mandates that a dealer must not sell or transfer a firearm to a person unless they are licensed and have a genuine reason for possessing it. Incorrect approach is analysis. Accepting the license at face value without independent verification is a significant regulatory failure. The applicant presented a license. The onus is on the dealer to ensure its authenticity and that it permits the purchase of the specific firearm. This bypasses the dealer's due diligence obligations under the Act. Assuming a genuine reason is valid simply because it is written on the license application form without further scrutiny or confirmation is also a failure. The Act requires the dealer to be satisfied that the reason is genuine and permissible for the specific firearm category. A generic or unverified reason does not meet this standard. Focusing solely on the applicant's stated intention to join a club without verifying if this club is an approved organization for handgun acquisition in NSW, and without confirming the applicant's membership status and the club's endorsement of their need for a handgun, is insufficient. The genuine reason must be demonstrably established and recognized by the licensing authority. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this field must adopt a risk-based approach to compliance. This involves understanding the specific legislative requirements, identifying potential areas of noncompliance, and implementing robust internal procedures to mitigate those risks. When dealing with firearms, especially restricted categories like handguns, a conservative interpretation of the law and a commitment to thorough verification are essential. This includes maintaining detailed records of all transactions and communications, and staying updated on any changes to legislation or licensing policies. In situations of doubt, seeking clarification from the New South Wales Police Force Firearms Registry is always the prudent course of action. Question 10. The audit findings indicate that a renewal application for Category H handgun license in New South Wales was submitted 30 days after its expiry date. The standard renewal fee for Category H license is $250.00, and the late penalty is calculated at 5% of the base renewal fee for each month or part thereof that the renewal is overdue. The applicable GST rate is 10%. What is the total amount payable for this late renewal? Option A, $287.50. Option B, $288.75. Option C, $275.00. Option D, $262.50. The correct answer is B, $288.75. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge in accurately calculating and reporting the financial implications of a firearm license renewal, specifically for a Category H handgun license in New South Wales. The challenge lies in correctly applying the relevant fee structures, potential late penalties, and any applicable GST, ensuring compliance with the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, and associated regulations. Miscalculation can lead to underpayment, overpayment, or incorrect financial reporting, potentially impacting the licensee's standing and the efficiency of the licensing authority. Correct approach analysis. The best professional practice involves a meticulous step-by-step calculation that accounts for all relevant components. This includes identifying the base renewal fee for a Category H license as stipulated by the NSW Government Gazette, determining the applicable late penalty fee if the renewal is past its due date, calculated as a percentage of the base fee or a fixed amount as defined by regulation, and then adding the goods and services tax, GST, at the standard rate of 10% to the sum of the base fee and any late penalty. This approach ensures all statutory requirements are met, the correct amount is remitted, and financial records are accurate. The justification for this approach is rooted in the principle of strict adherence to legislative financial provisions, ensuring transparency and accountability in the licensing process as mandated by the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, and the relevant fee regulations. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves simply applying the base renewal fee without considering the possibility of a late penalty, even if the renewal is overdue. This fails to comply with the penalty provisions outlined in the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, and its associated regulations, which are designed to encourage timely renewals. Another incorrect approach is to calculate the GST only on the base renewal fee and not on the total amount including any late penalty. This is a misapplication of GST principles, as GST is generally levied on the total taxable supply, which in this case would include all fees and penalties. This would result in an underpayment of GST. A further incorrect approach is to incorrectly identify the base renewal fee for a Category H license, perhaps by using a fee for a different category of firearm or an outdated fee schedule. This directly contravenes the specific fee structure mandated by the NSW government for each license category, leading to financial discrepancies and non-compliance. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a systematic approach to financial calculations related to licensing. This involves 1. Identifying the specific license category and jurisdiction, Category H, NSW. 2. Consulting the most current official fee schedule and penalty regulations. 3. Performing calculations sequentially, base fee, then late penalty if applicable, then GST on the total. 4. Verifying the final amount against known benchmarks or by cross-referencing with official examples if available. This structured method minimizes errors and ensures regulatory compliance. Question 11. Benchmark analysis indicates that an applicant seeking a Category H handgun firearms license in New South Wales must satisfy specific criteria beyond basic suitability. Considering the legislative framework, which approach best demonstrates compliance with the genuine reason requirement for obtaining such a license? Option A. Providing evidence of current membership in an approved pistol club, a logbook detailing regular participation in official shooting competitions or training sessions, and a clear statement of intent to use the handgun solely for these approved activities, along with proof of secure storage arrangements. Option B. Detailing a personal belief that owning a handgun is a fundamental right for self-defense and providing a statement of intent to keep the firearm at home for personal protection. Option C. Submitting a letter expressing a general interest in sport shooting and a desire to learn how to handle firearms safely. Option D. Presenting a copy of a firearms safety course certificate obtained several years ago and stating that the handgun will be used for recreational target practice occasionally. The correct answer is A. Providing evidence of current membership in an approved pistol club, a logbook detailing regular participation in official shooting competitions or training sessions, and a clear statement of intent to use the handgun solely for these approved activities, along with proof of secure storage arrangements. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires the applicant to demonstrate not only a genuine reason for possessing a handgun, but also to navigate the stringent requirements of the New South Wales firearms licensing process, specifically for Category H licenses. The challenge lies in interpreting and applying the genuine reason criterion, which is subject to interpretation and requires robust evidence. The applicant must present a compelling case that aligns with the legislative intent and the practicalities of safe and lawful handgun ownership. The onus is on the applicant to satisfy the licensing authority, making the presentation of information critical. Correct approach analysis. The best professional practice involves the applicant meticulously gathering and presenting comprehensive documentation that directly supports their stated genuine reason. This includes providing evidence of membership in an approved pistol club, proof of participation in regular shooting activities, and a clear explanation of how the handgun will be used within the confines of club activities and safe storage regulations. This approach directly addresses the core requirements of the Firearms Act 1996 NSW and the associated regulations, which mandate a genuine reason and the applicant's suitability. It demonstrates foresight, responsibility, and a clear understanding of the legal obligations. Incorrect approach is analysis. Presenting a vague or unsubstantiated reason, such as a general interest in sport shooting without specific club affiliation or activity logs, fails to meet the genuine reason requirement. This approach neglects the legislative need for demonstrable and ongoing engagement with approved shooting activities. Providing documentation that is outdated or incomplete, such as expired club membership or a lack of evidence of recent participation, undermines the credibility of the application. The licensing authority requires current and relevant information to assess the ongoing nature of the genuine reason. Focusing solely on the desire to own a handgun for personal protection, without demonstrating a specific, legally recognized genuine reason under the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, for Category H license, is a fundamental failure. The Act clearly defines permissible reasons, and personal protection is generally not a primary criterion for handgun licensing in New South Wales. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach such applications by thoroughly understanding the specific legislative requirements of the jurisdiction, New South Wales, in this case. This involves identifying the definition of genuine reason for the relevant firearm category and advising the applicant on the types of evidence that will satisfy the licensing authority. A structured approach, focusing on gathering verifiable documentation that directly addresses each criterion, is essential. Professionals must guide applicants to present a case that is not only truthful but also demonstrably compliant with the law, anticipating potential scrutiny from the licensing body. Question 12. Benchmark analysis indicates that a firearms dealer in New South Wales is processing an application for a Category H handgun license. The applicant has provided all the standard documentation, including proof of membership in an approved pistol club and completion of a firearms safety course. However, the dealer notices a minor discrepancy in the applicant's stated residential address compared to a utility bill provided. What is the most appropriate course of action for the dealer to ensure compliance with the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, and best practice in firearms licensing? Option A. Immediately reject the application due to the address discrepancy, citing it as a failure to provide accurate information as required by the licensing process. Option B. Approve the license application based on the applicant's verbal assurance that the utility bill is outdated and their current address is correct, and advise them to update their details later. Option C. Proactively verify the applicant's current residential address and investigate the discrepancy, potentially requesting further documentation or clarification from the applicant before proceeding with the license assessment. Option D. Proceed with the license application, assuming the discrepancy is a minor administrative error and that the applicant is otherwise suitable, given the submission of all other required documents. The correct answer is C. Proactively verify the applicant's current residential address and investigate the discrepancy, potentially requesting further documentation or clarification from the applicant before proceeding with the license assessment. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge for a firearms dealer in New South Wales when processing a Category H handgun license application. The challenge lies in balancing the legal requirements for license approval with the responsibility to ensure public safety and prevent the misuse of firearms. A thorough and diligent approach is paramount, as any oversight could have severe consequences. The dealer must navigate the specific provisions of the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, and its associated regulations, which mandate specific checks and considerations for handgun licenses due to their inherent potential for harm. Correct approach analysis. The best professional practice involves a comprehensive review of the applicant's documentation, including the genuine reason for possessing a handgun, confirmation of membership in an approved pistol club, and evidence of completing a firearms safety course. Crucially, this approach necessitates proactive verification of the applicant's identity and residency status, and a thorough assessment of any information that might indicate the applicant is a prohibited person under the Act, such as a history of violence, mental health concerns, or substance abuse, even if not explicitly flagged by the initial documentation. This aligns with the overarching objective of the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, to ensure that only fit and proper persons are granted firearm licenses, particularly for handguns. The dealer has a duty of care to conduct due diligence beyond the minimum presented by the applicant. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to solely rely on the applicant's submitted paperwork without conducting independent verification of critical details, such as residency or membership status. This fails to meet the dealer's responsibility to ensure the applicant is genuinely eligible and not a prohibited person, potentially contravening Section 12 of the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, which outlines grounds for refusal. Another incorrect approach is to approve the license application based on the applicant's assurance that they have no relevant criminal history or mental health issues, without seeking any corroborating evidence or making reasonable inquiries. This bypasses the due diligence required by the Act and places undue trust in the applicant, neglecting the dealer's role in safeguarding public safety. Finally, an approach that prioritizes processing speed over thoroughness, by overlooking minor discrepancies or failing to follow up on ambiguous information, is also professionally unacceptable. This demonstrates a lack of commitment to the licensing framework's intent and could lead to the issuance of a license to an unsuitable individual. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this field must adopt a risk-based approach, understanding that the licensing of handguns carries a higher degree of scrutiny. The decision-making process should involve a systematic checklist of all statutory requirements, coupled with a critical evaluation of the applicant's overall suitability. When in doubt, seeking clarification from the applicant or relevant authorities is essential. The principle of fit and proper person is central to firearms licensing, and this requires more than just ticking boxes. It demands a proactive and responsible assessment of potential risks. Question 13. In New South Wales, a licensed firearms dealer is approached by a customer who holds a current Category H handgun license and wishes to purchase a new handgun. The customer mentions they have recently experienced a significant personal crisis, including a period of intense emotional distress. Which approach would be most professionally responsible and legally compliant for the dealer? Option A. Proceed with the sale as the customer possesses a valid license and has stated a genuine reason, assuming their personal crisis will not impact their ability to safely possess a firearm. Option B. Contact the customer's listed emergency contacts or known friends to informally gauge their current emotional state and suitability to own a handgun. Option C. Advise the customer to wait until they feel better before completing the purchase, without formally assessing their current suitability or documenting the interaction beyond a casual note. Option D. Verify the customer's current Category H license, confirm their stated genuine reason for purchase, and proceed with the sale if all statutory requirements, including waiting periods, are met, while making a discreet note of the customer's disclosure for internal record keeping. The correct answer is D. Verify the customer's current Category H license, confirm their stated genuine reason for purchase, and proceed with the sale if all statutory requirements, including waiting periods, are met, while making a discreet note of the customer's disclosure for internal record keeping. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge for a firearms dealer in New South Wales when a customer, who has recently experienced a significant personal crisis, requests to purchase a handgun. The challenge lies in balancing the customer's right to engage in lawful activities with the paramount responsibility to ensure public safety and adhere strictly to the legal requirements for firearm licensing and acquisition. The dealer must exercise sound judgment to avoid facilitating the acquisition of a firearm by someone who may pose a risk to themselves or others, without unfairly prejudicing the individual. Correct approach analysis. The best professional practice involves a thorough and documented assessment of the applicant's eligibility, strictly adhering to the requirements of the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, and its associated regulations. This includes verifying the applicant's current firearms license, confirming the genuine reason for acquiring the handgun, as stipulated by the Act, and ensuring all mandatory waiting periods and documentation requirements are met. Crucially, the dealer must also consider any information that might suggest the applicant is not a fit and proper person to possess a firearm, which may necessitate further inquiry or refusal of the sale, in line with the dealer's obligations under the Act. This approach prioritizes legal compliance and public safety while respecting the applicant's rights. Incorrect approach is analysis. Proceeding with the sale without further inquiry, despite the customer's recent personal crisis, is professionally unacceptable. This approach fails to acknowledge the potential impact of the crisis on the applicant's suitability to possess a firearm, and neglects the dealer's duty of care and legal obligations to assess fitness and propriety. It risks contravening the spirit and letter of the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, by potentially supplying a firearm to an individual who may not be safe to possess one. Suggesting the customer wait until they are feeling better without a formal assessment or refusal is also professionally unsound. While seemingly considerate, it bypasses the legal framework for assessing eligibility and fitness. The dealer is not qualified to make subjective judgments about a customer's emotional state as a basis for sale. Rather, they must rely on objective criteria and legal requirements. This approach creates ambiguity and does not provide a clear, defensible basis for either proceeding or refusing the sale. Contacting the customer's friends or family for an informal assessment is a serious breach of privacy and professional conduct. Such actions are not sanctioned by the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, and could lead to legal repercussions for the dealer, including the loss of their license. The assessment of an applicant's suitability must be conducted through official channels and based on information relevant to the legal criteria for firearm possession. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this field must adopt a systematic, legally compliant approach. This involves understanding the specific requirements of the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, regarding license verification, genuine reasons, waiting periods, and the definition of a fit and proper person. When circumstances raise concerns, the professional should consult the relevant legislation and, if necessary, seek guidance from the NSW Police Force Firearms Registry. The decision-making process should be documented meticulously, ensuring that any refusal or further inquiry is based on objective, legally justifiable grounds, thereby protecting both public safety and the integrity of the licensing system. Question 14. Investigation of an applicant's preparedness for Category H, Handgun, firearms license application in New South Wales reveals they have a stated genuine reason of participating in competitive handgun shooting. Which of the following approaches best demonstrates the applicant's understanding of the evidentiary requirements under the Firearms Act 1996, NSW? Option A. The applicant states they have always wanted to own a handgun for sport and believes this is a sufficient reason for the license. Option B. The applicant provides a formal letter from their affiliated shooting club confirming their membership, participation in club events, and endorsement of their need for a handgun for competitive shooting, along with copies of recent competition results. Option C. The applicant submits a general statement expressing their enthusiasm for sport shooting and a verbal confirmation from a club member that they are a good shot. Option D. The applicant includes a photocopy of a membership card from a different shooting club they belonged to 5 years ago, which was for rifle shooting. The correct answer is B. The applicant provides a formal letter from their affiliated shooting club confirming their membership, participation in club events, and endorsement of their need for a handgun for competitive shooting, along with copies of recent competition results. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires the applicant to demonstrate not only a genuine reason for possessing a handgun, but also to navigate the stringent evidentiary requirements of the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, and its associated regulations. The onus is on the applicant to satisfy the Commissioner of Police that they have a legitimate need and are a fit and proper person, which involves providing robust and verifiable evidence. Misinterpreting or failing to adequately address these requirements can lead to license refusal, impacting the applicant's rights and potentially their safety if their stated reason is genuine. Correct approach analysis. The best professional practice involves the applicant proactively gathering and submitting comprehensive, verifiable documentation that directly supports their stated genuine reason for needing a handgun license. This includes official correspondence, membership confirmations, and any other evidence that substantiates their claim, such as a letter from a recognized shooting club detailing their participation and the club's endorsement of their need for handgun use. This approach directly addresses the evidentiary burden placed upon the applicant by Section 12 of the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, which requires the Commissioner to be satisfied of a genuine reason. Providing specific, verifiable evidence ensures that the application is well supported and demonstrates the applicant's understanding of and compliance with the legislative requirements. Incorrect approaches analysis. Submitting a general statement of interest in sport shooting without specific evidence of club membership or participation fails to meet the evidentiary requirements. This approach is insufficient because it does not provide the Commissioner with concrete proof of a genuine reason as defined by the Act. Relying solely on a verbal assurance from a club official without written confirmation is also inadequate as it lacks the verifiable documentation expected for a formal licensing process. Providing outdated or irrelevant documentation, such as old membership cards from a different type of firearm or a club that no longer exists, demonstrates a lack of diligence and an inability to present current, relevant evidence, thereby failing to satisfy the Commissioner of a genuine and ongoing need. Professional reasoning. Professionals assisting applicants for firearms licenses must guide them to understand that the licensing process is evidence-based. The primary decision-making framework involves meticulously reviewing the specific requirements of the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, and its regulations, particularly concerning the definition and proof of a genuine reason. Applicants must be advised to gather all possible supporting documentation that directly corroborates their stated reason, ensuring it is current, verifiable, and specific to the type of license sought. This proactive and evidence-driven approach is crucial for a successful application and demonstrates professional integrity by ensuring compliance with legal obligations. Question 15. Assessment of a firearms dealer's responsibility in New South Wales when a customer who has recently experienced a significant personal crisis attempts to purchase a handgun. Option A. Refuse the sale outright due to the customer's recent personal crisis without further discussion or assessment of their current fitness. Option B. Advise the customer that their personal crisis is not relevant to the firearm purchase and proceed with the sale if the license is valid. Option C. Engage in a professional conversation to understand the customer's current circumstances and reasons for purchase, review their existing license, and if necessary, request further documentation or a medical certificate to confirm their suitability as a fit and proper person. Option D. Proceed with the sale immediately as the customer possesses a valid Category H license, assuming their suitability is guaranteed by the license itself. The correct answer is C. Engage in a professional conversation to understand the customer's current circumstances and reasons for purchase, review their existing license, and if necessary, request further documentation or a medical certificate to confirm their suitability as a fit and proper person. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge for a firearms dealer in New South Wales when a customer, who has recently experienced a significant personal crisis, attempts to purchase a handgun. The challenge lies in balancing the legal requirements for firearm sales with the ethical responsibility to ensure firearms do not fall into the hands of individuals who may pose a risk to themselves or others, especially in the context of a recent emotional upheaval. Careful judgment is required to assess the customer's suitability without infringing on their rights or making unsubstantiated assumptions. Correct approach analysis. The best professional practice involves a thorough assessment of the customer's current mental and emotional state, in conjunction with a review of their existing firearms license and any relevant documentation. This approach prioritizes safety and compliance with the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, and its associated regulations, which mandate that a dealer must be satisfied that a person is a fit and proper person to possess a firearm. This includes considering any factors that might indicate a risk, such as recent significant personal distress. The dealer should engage in a professional, non-judgmental conversation to understand the customer's circumstances and their reasons for the purchase, while also being prepared to request further information or documentation, such as a current medical certificate if deemed necessary, to confirm their suitability. This proactive and diligent approach ensures adherence to legal obligations and upholds ethical standards of responsible firearm sales. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves proceeding with the sale based solely on the customer possessing a valid Category H license, without further inquiry into their recent personal crisis. This fails to meet the dealer's obligation under the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, to be satisfied that the person is a fit and proper person at the time of sale, as a license alone does not guarantee current suitability. Another incorrect approach is to refuse the sale outright based on the personal crisis alone, without giving the customer an opportunity to demonstrate their continued suitability or without seeking further information. This could be discriminatory and may not align with the legal framework, which requires an assessment of fitness rather than an automatic disqualification based on a personal event. Finally, an incorrect approach would be to dismiss the customer's personal crisis as irrelevant to the transaction, thereby neglecting the dealer's duty of care and potentially contravening the spirit of the legislation designed to prevent firearm misuse. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this situation should employ a risk-based assessment framework. This involves 1. Identifying potential risks, e.g., mental health, emotional instability. 2. Gathering relevant information, e.g., license status, customer stated circumstances, dealer's observations. 3. Evaluating the information against legal requirements, e.g., fit and proper person test under NSW law. 4. Making a reasoned decision, which may include proceeding with the sale, requesting further information, or refusing the sale if sufficient concerns remain. This process requires empathy, professionalism, and a strong understanding of the relevant legislation and ethical obligations. Question 16. Benchmark analysis indicates a firearms dealer in New South Wales is processing an application for Category H handgun license. During the application process, the applicant voluntarily discloses a history of receiving treatment for a mental health condition approximately 3 years ago, stating they are now completely fine and have not experienced any issues since. What is the most appropriate course of action for the dealer to ensure compliance with New South Wales firearms legislation? Option A. Conduct an independent assessment of the applicant's current mental state before deciding whether to report the history. Option B. Proceed with the sale, assuming the applicant's current statement of being completely fine negates the need for further reporting. Option C. Advise the applicant to omit this information from their application to avoid potential complications. Option D. Immediately inform the Commissioner of Police, NSW, of the applicant's disclosed mental health treatment history. The correct answer is D. Immediately inform the Commissioner of Police, NSW, of the applicant's disclosed mental health treatment history. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge for a firearms dealer in New South Wales due to the strict regulatory environment surrounding the licensing and sale of handguns. The applicant's history of mental health treatment, while potentially manageable, triggers specific obligations under the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, and associated regulations. A failure to properly assess and report this information could lead to serious legal and ethical repercussions, including license suspension or cancellation, and potential criminal charges. The dealer must balance their business interests with their duty of care to public safety and adherence to the law. Correct approach analysis. The best professional practice involves a proactive and transparent approach. This means the dealer should immediately inform the Commissioner of Police, NSW, about the applicant's disclosed mental health treatment. This aligns with the requirements of Section 12 of the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, which mandates the reporting of any information that may be relevant to a person's suitability to hold a firearms license. The Act places a significant onus on license holders and applicants to disclose such information, and on dealers to facilitate this disclosure and ensure compliance. By reporting, the dealer is fulfilling their legal obligation and allowing the relevant authorities to conduct a thorough assessment of the applicant's suitability, thereby upholding public safety. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to proceed with the sale without reporting the mental health history. This directly contravenes Section 12 of the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, which requires the reporting of information relevant to suitability. Ethically, it demonstrates a disregard for public safety by potentially arming an individual whose mental health status has not been fully evaluated by the licensing authority. Another incorrect approach is to advise the applicant to withhold this information from the authorities. This is not only unethical, but also constitutes aiding and abetting a breach of the law. The dealer would be actively misleading the licensing authority, undermining the integrity of the firearms licensing system, and creating a significant risk. A further incorrect approach is to assume that because the applicant states they are fine now, the mental health history is irrelevant. The Firearms Act 1996, NSW, does not allow for subjective interpretation of an applicant's current state of mind regarding past mental health treatment. The onus is on the Commissioner of Police to determine suitability based on all disclosed information, not on the dealer's personal assessment. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this field must adopt a risk-averse and compliance-focused mindset. The decision-making process should prioritize adherence to the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, and its regulations. When faced with information that could impact an applicant's suitability, the default action should be to report it to the relevant authority. This ensures that the licensing process is robust and that public safety is paramount. Dealers should maintain clear records of all interactions and disclosures, and seek legal advice if unsure about specific obligations. Question 17. Risk assessment procedures indicate that an applicant for a Category H handgun firearms license in New South Wales has stated their genuine reason for wanting the license is to participate in competitive pistol shooting. They have provided documentation indicating they intend to join an approved pistol club. However, a review of their personal history reveals 2 minor public order incidents from 5 years ago, both of which were resolved without a conviction. What is the most appropriate course of action for the licensing authority? Option A. Request a detailed psychological evaluation of the applicant to determine their suitability, given the past public order incidents, even though the reason for the license is sport shooting. Option B. approve the license immediately upon confirmation of their intention to join an approved pistol club, as the stated reason is valid and the past incidents did not result in convictions. Option C. Conduct a thorough assessment of the applicant's genuine reason by verifying their active membership and participation in an approved pistol club, and conduct a comprehensive evaluation of their overall suitability, considering the nature and recency of past incidents in relation to their current character and commitment to responsible firearm ownership. Option D. Refuse the license outright due to the applicant's history of public order incidents, regardless of their stated genuine reason or the minor nature of the past events. The correct answer is C. Conduct a thorough assessment of the applicant's genuine reason by verifying their active membership and participation in an approved pistol club, and conduct a comprehensive evaluation of their overall suitability, considering the nature and recency of past incidents in relation to their current character and commitment to responsible firearm ownership. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the applicant's stated need for a handgun for sport shooting with the stringent requirements of the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, and associated regulations concerning genuine reasons and suitability. The applicant's history of minor altercations, even if resolved, raises concerns about their judgment and temperament, which are critical factors in determining suitability for a firearm license. A superficial assessment could lead to either an unwarranted approval or an unjustified refusal, both carrying significant consequences. Correct approach analysis. The best professional practice involves a thorough and objective evaluation of the applicant's stated genuine reason for possessing a handgun, which in this case is sport shooting. This includes verifying membership and active participation in an approved pistol club, as mandated by the Firearms Act 1996, NSW. Crucially, it requires a comprehensive assessment of the applicant's overall suitability, which extends beyond just the stated reason. This involves scrutinizing their personal history, including any documented instances of conflict or behavior that might indicate a propensity for violence or poor judgment, as per the criteria for determining a person's fitness and propriety to hold a license. The assessment must be based on all available information, including police records and references, to ensure public safety and compliance with the spirit and letter of the law. Incorrect approaches analysis. Approving the license solely based on the applicant's stated intention to join a club without independently verifying their active participation and genuine engagement in sport shooting would be a failure to adequately assess the genuine reason. This overlooks the requirement for ongoing membership and participation. Conversely, automatically refusing the license based on past minor altercations, without a nuanced assessment of their relevance to current suitability and the applicant's demonstrated commitment to responsible firearm ownership, would be an overly punitive and potentially unfair approach. It fails to consider the possibility of rehabilitation, or that past incidents may not be indicative of current risk. Furthermore, relying solely on the applicant's self-assessment of their suitability without corroborating evidence or independent checks would be a dereliction of duty, as the onus is on the licensing authority to determine suitability based on objective criteria. Professional reasoning. Professionals assessing firearm license applications in New South Wales must adopt a systematic and evidence-based approach. This involves 1. Verifying the stated genuine reason through objective means, e.g., club membership confirmation, participation records. 2. Conducting a holistic suitability assessment, considering all aspects of the applicant's history and character, and evaluating their relevance to safe firearm ownership. 3. Applying the provisions of the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, and relevant regulations consistently and fairly. 4. Documenting all findings and the rationale for the decision thoroughly. The ultimate goal is to uphold public safety while ensuring fair process for applicants. Question 18. Benchmark analysis indicates that applicants for Category H, Handgun, firearms license in New South Wales are often challenged by the requirement to demonstrate a genuine reason. Considering the regulatory framework in New South Wales, which of the following approaches best satisfies this crucial licensing criterion? Option A. Presenting a personal affidavit detailing a desire to own a handgun for recreational shooting and occasional practice at private property. Option B. Providing official documentation from a recognized shooting club detailing membership duration, participation in club events, and endorsement from club officials, alongside proof of completion of a firearms safety course. Option C. Furnishing a letter from a security company confirming the applicant's potential future employment that may require a handgun, without specific details of the role or the company's licensing for such provision. Option D. Submitting a letter from a friend who is a licensed handgun owner, stating they have observed the applicant's interest and believe they would be a responsible owner. The correct answer is B. Providing official documentation from a recognized shooting club, detailing membership duration, participation in club events, and endorsement from club officials, alongside proof of completion of a firearms safety course. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate not only a genuine reason for possessing a handgun, but also to navigate the specific evidentiary requirements mandated by New South Wales NSW firearms licensing legislation. The challenge lies in interpreting and satisfying the genuine reason criterion, which is subject to strict interpretation by the licensing authority, and ensuring all supporting documentation is comprehensive and verifiable. Failure to do so can lead to license refusal, impacting the applicant's lawful pursuit of activities requiring a handgun. Correct approach analysis. The best professional practice involves the applicant meticulously gathering and presenting evidence that directly supports a recognized genuine reason for a Category H license in NSW, such as competitive shooting or occupational requirements, and ensuring this evidence is formally documented and verifiable. This approach aligns with the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, and the associated regulation, which require applicants to satisfy the Commissioner of Police of a genuine reason for possessing a firearm, providing official documentation from a recognized shooting club, detailing membership duration, participation in events, and endorsement from club officials, directly addresses this requirement. This demonstrates a clear, lawful, and established need for the firearm, satisfying the evidentiary burden placed upon the applicant. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach is to rely solely on a verbal assurance from a friend who is a licensed shooter, without any formal documentation or proof of organized participation. This fails to meet the evidentiary standards required by the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, as it lacks verifiable proof of a genuine reason and does not demonstrate a commitment to a regulated shooting activity. Licensing authority needs objective evidence, not hearsay. Another incorrect approach is to submit a general statement about enjoying shooting as a hobby without providing specific details or evidence of participation in a recognized shooting club or organized competition. While recreation can be a genuine reason, it must be demonstrated through structured participation in approved activities, as outlined in NSW firearms regulations. A vague personal interest is insufficient without supporting evidence of engagement in a lawful, regulated context. A further incorrect approach is to present a letter from a family member stating the applicant intends to use the handgun for self-defense. Self-defense is generally not considered a genuine reason for a Category H license in NSW, particularly for handguns, under the current legislative framework. The Firearms Act 1996, NSW, and its interpretation by the NSW police force focus on sport, occupational, or collection purposes, not personal defense. Professional reasoning. Professionals assisting applicants for NSW firearms licenses must adopt a systematic approach. This involves 1. Thoroughly understanding the specific genuine reasons recognized under the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, and relevant policy guidelines. 2. Guiding the applicant to gather objective, verifiable documentation that directly substantiates their chosen genuine reason. 3. Ensuring all submitted evidence is current, complete, and presented in the format required by the NSW Police Firearms Registry. 4. Advising applicants on the limitations of certain stated reasons, such as self-defense, which are typically not accepted. This methodical process ensures compliance with legal requirements and maximizes the likelihood of a successful license application. Question 19. Quality control measures reveal that a prospective applicant for Category H, handgun, license in New South Wales has disclosed a past history of significant mental health challenges, although they assert they are currently well and have not experienced issues for several years. As a licensed firearms dealer, What is the most appropriate course of action to ensure compliance with New South Wales firearms legislation and uphold public safety? Option A. Accept a letter from a psychologist detailing the applicant's past treatment and current mental state as sufficient evidence of fitness. Option B. Refuse the application immediately based on the applicant's past mental health history, without allowing them to provide a medical certificate. Option C. Request and meticulously review a current medical certificate from a registered medical practitioner confirming the applicant's fitness to possess a handgun, in accordance with Section 31 of the Firearms Act 1996 NSW. Option D. Accept the applicant's verbal assurance of current mental well-being and proceed with the license application without further medical documentation. The correct answer is C. Request and meticulously review a current medical certificate from a registered medical practitioner confirming the applicant's fitness to possess a handgun, in accordance with Section 31 of the Firearms Act 1996, NSW. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge for a firearms dealer in New South Wales when faced with a customer seeking a Category H handgun license who has a history of mental health issues. The core challenge lies in balancing the applicant's right to apply for a license with the paramount public safety obligations mandated by the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, and its associated regulation. The dealer must exercise careful judgment to avoid facilitating the acquisition of a firearm by an individual who may pose a risk, without unfairly prejudicing the applicant. Correct approach analysis. The best professional practice involves diligently verifying the applicant's eligibility by requesting and reviewing all necessary documentation, including the mandatory medical certificate from a registered medical practitioner confirming their fitness to possess a handgun. This approach is correct because it directly adheres to the requirements of Section 31 of the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, which mandates that an applicant for a Category H license must provide a certificate from a medical practitioner stating that the applicant is not suffering from any condition that would make them a danger to themselves or others if permitted to possess a handgun. Furthermore, it aligns with the ethical duty of care that firearms dealers have to the community. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach is to proceed with the application based solely on the applicant's verbal assurance that they have no current mental health concerns, without obtaining the required medical certificate. This fails to meet the statutory requirement for a medical assessment, thereby creating a significant regulatory failure and potentially endangering public safety. Another incorrect approach is to refuse the application outright based on the applicant's past mental health history, without allowing them the opportunity to provide the legally required medical clearance. While caution is warranted, a blanket refusal without due process contravenes the principle of fairness and the applicant's right to demonstrate their current fitness, as long as they can meet the statutory requirements. A further incorrect approach is to accept a certificate from a psychologist instead of a registered medical practitioner. While psychologists are qualified mental health professionals, the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, specifically requires a certificate from a registered medical practitioner for the purpose of assessing fitness to possess a firearm. Accepting an unqualified certificate constitutes a regulatory breach. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this situation should adopt a systematic approach. First, understand the specific legal requirements for the license category in question under the relevant New South Wales legislation. Second, clearly communicate these requirements to the applicant. Third, meticulously collect and verify all mandated documentation. Fourth, if any doubt or ambiguity arises, err on the side of caution and seek clarification or additional information, always prioritizing public safety and regulatory compliance. Question 20. The risk matrix shows a moderate probability of a client defaulting on ongoing firearm ownership costs. A licensed firearms dealer in New South Wales is considering selling a Category H handgun to this client. The upfront profit margin on the handgun sale is substantial. The client has indicated they have sufficient funds, but has not provided detailed financial statements. The dealer needs to determine the most responsible course of action. If the client's total estimated annual cost of handgun ownership, including license renewal, secure storage, ammunition, and club membership, is calculated to be $2,500, and the client's disposable income after essential living expenses is estimated at $3,000, $0.000 per year. What is the minimum percentage of their disposable income the client would need to allocate to firearm ownership costs to ensure a sustainable financial commitment, assuming they wish to maintain a 10% buffer for unforeseen expenses? Option A. The client would need to allocate approximately 100% of their disposable income to firearm ownership costs to maintain a 10% buffer. Option B. The client would need to allocate approximately 75% of their disposable income to firearm ownership costs to maintain a 10% buffer. Option C. The client would need to allocate approximately 33% of their disposable income to firearm ownership costs to maintain a 10% buffer. Option D. The client would need to allocate approximately 67% of their disposable income to firearm ownership costs to maintain a 10% buffer. The correct answer is C. The client would need to allocate approximately 33% of their disposable income to firearm ownership costs to maintain a 10% buffer. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge for a firearms dealer in New South Wales, NSW, by requiring them to assess the financial viability of a proposed handgun acquisition for a client, balancing business interests with the stringent requirements of the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, and associated regulations. The dealer must ensure that the proposed acquisition is not only financially sound for the business, but also aligns with the client's genuine reason for possessing a handgun and their capacity to maintain it, as mandated by NSW firearms licensing laws. The core of the challenge lies in interpreting the client's financial capacity in a way that satisfies both commercial prudence and regulatory compliance, particularly concerning the ongoing costs associated with firearm ownership. The best professional practice involves a thorough assessment of the client's financial capacity, considering not just the upfront cost of the handgun, but also the projected ongoing expenses such as secure storage, ammunition, maintenance, and any relevant club or competition fees. This approach directly addresses the requirements of the Firearms Act 1996, NSW, which necessitates that a licensee must have a genuine reason for possessing a firearm and must be a fit and proper person to hold a license. A comprehensive financial assessment demonstrates due diligence in ensuring the client can responsibly manage the costs associated with firearm ownership, thereby upholding the spirit and letter of the law. This proactive approach minimizes the risk of the client being unable to maintain their license due to financial hardship, which could indirectly reflect poorly on the dealer's vetting process. An approach that focuses solely on the immediate profit margin of the handgun sale, without considering the client's long-term financial capacity to meet ongoing ownership costs, is professionally unacceptable. This overlooks the regulatory obligation to ensure licensees can responsibly manage their firearms, which includes the financial burden of ownership. Such a narrow focus risks facilitating the acquisition of a firearm by someone who may subsequently struggle to maintain it, potentially leading to license issues and contraventions of the Firearms Act 1996, NSW. Another professionally unacceptable approach is to accept the client's verbal assurance of financial stability without any objective verification. While trust is important in business relationships, firearms licensing in NSW requires a higher degree of diligence. Relying solely on a verbal statement fails to adequately assess the client's genuine capacity to meet the financial obligations of handgun ownership, potentially leading to a situation where the client cannot afford necessary maintenance or secure storage, thereby jeopardizing their license. Finally, an approach that prioritizes securing the sale over any financial due diligence, perhaps by offering an unrealistic payment plan that the client is unlikely to sustain, is also professionally unsound. This circumvents the underlying principle of responsible firearm ownership and the dealer's role in upholding it. It creates a false sense of affordability and can lead to future financial distress for the client, potentially impacting their license status and the dealer's reputation. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured financial assessment framework. This framework should include understanding the client's stated genuine reason for acquiring the handgun, calculating the total estimated cost of ownership, including upfront purchase, licensing fees, secure storage, ammunition, maintenance, and any associated club or competition costs, evaluating the client's declared income and expenditure to determine their capacity to cover these ongoing costs, and documenting all assessments and decisions to demonstrate compliance and due diligence.